I watch Michael Knowles every day. He's the man. Obviously, he's super smart, right? He's all excited today about covenant marriage in Tennessee, a new bill, and that's good. It's not the greatest, and I'll explain kind of why I think that is. But the main thing I want to talk about is Michael's consistent definition of marriage, which he gets wrong. What he does wrong, I don't know if I don't think he knows it, and he's tried to correct it a little bit. But he is saying what marriage is oriented toward. Okay, it's oriented toward one thing, but he says it's oriented towards two things, and this is all designed because we need to keep NFP natural, so we can have two different directions and call them both natural, and that's the problem. So that's hanging Michael up. I want to watch his video with you. It's very short, and we'll kind of talk a little about it, but I thought we'd get this on the record. So here, let's listen to MK Ultra here and see what we got.
Really, really good news and a huge cultural shift going on in my state of Tennessee. Have you heard of covenant marriage? Covenant marriage, you're going to hear about it more and more. There is a bill being proposed in Tennessee that would establish covenant marriage into law. Other states have done this already.
Okay, so if he's saying other states have done this, he's talking about Louisiana, Arkansas, and Arizona. If they have made covenant marriage into law the same, that would mean it's just voluntary, okay? In other words, you can do regular no-fault divorce, or you can do covenant marriage, which effectively makes an extra hurdle or two for divorce, but that's really all it is, okay? And if it's elective, I think 2% of the people pick it. Why? I don't know, but they just figure if we want to get divorced, I don't know why. Even the Catholic Church doesn't really give a dang about it. It's weird, but at least the bishops, I should say. Let's listen.
It was introduced into the State House here, January 22nd. It would establish covenant marriages in Tennessee as being between, quote, one male and one female who, quote, agree that marriage is a lifelong partnership.
Okay, so whatever. That's cool. It's between a man and a woman. But I think if it's like these other things, it's not going to be, obviously, because you can't overturn Obergefell like that or something. It's just, they're going to say this is you can check the box to covenant marriage or not. That's what I assume is going on, all right? Let's listen to, he did say that little weasel word. Sorry, we got to get that in there. Listen.
Marriage is a lifelong partnership.
Whoa.
The legislation would make it harder for lifelong quote, agree that marriage is a lifelong partnership.
Wait, just a minute.
Covenant marriages in Tennessee as being between, quote, one male and one female who, quote, agree that marriage is a lifelong partnership.
I think he said union. Just a minute.
Marriage into law. Other states have done this already. It was introduced into the State House here, January 22nd. It would establish covenant marriages in Tennessee as being between, quote, one male and one female who, quote, agree that marriage is a lifelong partnership.
Stop right there. Of course, you know how I think about partner. No, it's not a partnership. It is a contract with rights. That's what it is. Because a partnership requires equal rights, and it requires everyone get along a certain way and all that stuff. In other words, partnership language is a problem. So it's not, marriage is not a partnership. It's a contract for rights. Hang on, let's go.
The legislation would make it harder for couples who agree to enter into this kind of marriage to get a divorce.
Okay, so yeah, there's just more roadblocks, but hey, if you know how it goes, if you want a divorce, you're going to get it, all right? If it's harder, it's harder, but especially females who want that divorce, they're going to get it. Nothing's going to stop them. Nothing.
In the state of Tennessee. And the bill would go into effect July 2025.
Okay, all of this is good. It's all moving in the right direction, and it's all good because the innocent suffer. This is so ridiculous, the divorce thing. So bad. And it stems from family planning, creating that new purpose, which is partnership and love and all this stuff. And when you don't have it, you're feeling unfulfilled, then it takes on a life of its own, and somebody just blows through the whole thing. And they care about their kids, but not that much. Okay. That's what it is. Man. So anyway, I don't mean to pour cold water on Michael Knowles here, but I'm talking too much. Let's keep going.
I love this. The Representative Gino Bulso, who proposed this bill, and Chris Hurt, who originally proposed the bill before passing the sponsorship on, they have my full support. Anything I can do to help them, I'm happy to do. This bill is reality with a few extra steps.
This bill is reality with a few extra steps. The extra steps part I don't even catch on to, okay? And I still don't even believe it's reality per se that this marriage is a partnership, and nor is it a covenant. I'm sorry. It's a solemn contract, which means it's a contract seen by God. In other words, you're going to have to answer to God for if you violate the terms of the contract. Covenant is Protestant language because there's no legal terms, okay? And now, after Vatican II, the Catholic bishops are effectively Protestant, and they call it on the terms of marriage because there isn't any anymore, because once you have that secondary purpose of marriage becoming essential, which is what happens with NFP, now you can't put love in a contract, all right? That's why the amount, you cannot enumerate or define the rights of a covenant. So there's no rights, there's no justice involved. That's it. You can put roadblocks to divorce, but there's probably some other terms in there, like it's got to be a little bit stricter to get the divorce. But I mean, that's all good, but still. Hang on, here we go. Let's listen.
That's what covenant marriage is. Covenant marriage is reality with a few extra steps, because what this really is just what everyone understood marriage to be until relatively recently.
What this really is what everyone understood marriage to be until relatively recently. No, this is all recent as far as, well, I'm talking too much. We got to listen to what he says next.
Until the Obergefell decision in, 2015, everyone, everywhere understood marriage to be the union of a man and a woman.
There's that word. Sorry, the union. Okay, union is a tofu word. It's a weasel word. It's an empty box. It is a contract between a man and a woman. That's what marriage is. It's not a union, because union can mean some groovy emotional bond that we must maintain with tons of date nights and whatever. Okay, or you have to let me find my space, and we have to space our kids, and we have to. That's what a union can be unless you define it, okay? So, no, don't. When everyone says marriage is a union of, no, it's a contractual arrangement. That's what it is, with rights, okay? It's a solemn contract, but it's a contract. And that's what everyone understood it until the Protestant Revolution. Then it became a covenant among Protestants, and it only became a covenant among Catholics when Vatican II, when NFP started to become licit. Now we have to call it a covenant because love has no limits and no legal definition of rights. You see what I'm saying?
Not because we don't like fellas who have different views and desires. Not because we don't like ladies who have different views and desires. Not because we're phobic or hateful or anything, but just because that's what a marriage is. If marriage is not that, there is no way to identify what distinguishes marriage from any other kind of relationship.
Okay, yeah, as in marriage is for having kids. And Michael Knowles would not, but he keeps throwing in this secondary end business. Let's get to that.
It's not hateful, it's just reality. Okay, and then this isn't just distinguishing covenant marriage from same-sex marriage or something. This goes further. This undoes an error that began really 50, 60 years ago, which is the error of liberalizing divorce. Marriage was understood for all of history, certainly in our civilization, but broadly speaking everywhere, as the union of a man and a woman for life, ordered toward the procreation and education of children, and as a secondary matter, ordered toward the mutual support of the spouses.
Okay, so there's that word union again. Let's ignore that. He just said it is, I'm going to say a contract for life, ordered toward the procreation ordered toward procreation, education, because you can't just create a ton of kids that are going nuts, right? You have to form them in the faith, make them normal people, right? So you have to educate your kids. So procreation, education is the primary orientation. Orientation, as he says, directed towards. But then he says secondarily, let's listen again, because it's not a very long video.
Of children, and as a secondary matter, ordered toward the mutual support of the spouses.
As a secondary matter. So this is the question to Michael Knowles. Does anyone have a way to get a memo to this guy? I've been trying everything, but I can't reach him. I can't. I've tried a lot of different ways too. Okay, primary is a word that means something, and secondary is a word that means something. But today, they'll say, yeah, good to the spouses is secondary, but it's still essential. No. Primary comes first, and it is independent of the secondary ends. The secondary ends cannot exist without the primary, so they are dependent, all right? So the orientation of marriage, the conjugal act, is toward procreation. It cannot be oriented to anything else. But if you say that we have two natural orientations, you're a house divided right there. That is why we have all the no-fault divorce. That's why marriage is dead, because it's not defined, because the orientation of the contract, the act, is not defined, because now we have two orientations. And Michael Knowles has fallen for this, and I don't blame him, because it's not easy to see. But this is emanating from the spirit of Vatican II, man. It's like, because it's all in Gaudium et Spes and all that. It's a love contract. It's a compact of conjugal love now. You have to have all this love, blah, blah, blah. You have two different orientations, and you can only drive a car in one direction at one time, okay? And that direction is always love, and if it happens to turn into kids, that's cool. That's what they're saying. No, it's always kids, and if it happens to turn into love, that's cool. That's Catholic. That's the way marriage has always been. That's why we didn't have divorce, and everyone had 14 kids until family planning. It started with the Anglicans in 1930, and then the Catholics lifted their same language almost word for word and put it in Humanae Vitae to justify NFP. It's amazing when you look at what the Lambeth Anglicans say, and when you look at, and I'm going to put that text in the show notes. And then if you look at what the what do you call it? Humanae Vitae says, it's like word for word. They just stole the same. Oh, brother. Okay. Sorry, let's go.
That sounds like a mouthful. I'll say it one more time. It's the lifelong union of a man and a woman for the purpose of, inclined toward, the begetting of children and the educating of children, and also for the mutual support of the husband and wife.
He just tipped his hand, and he just changed his definition right there in front of you. First, he said it was primarily ordered toward kids, secondarily towards good of the spouses. So secondary means it is dependent on the initial order, the initial direction, the initial way the arrow is pointed. But now he says marriage is ordered to, let's listen to it one more time. He says it's ordered toward procreation and toward good of the spouses. So it's like you've got a car and the steering wheel is trying to point two different ways at the same time. And it always points toward love, okay, which is a euphemism for the flesh, for the ego, for whatever. Then, but you cannot define it, which is why marriage counseling is the new separation cord, okay? Man, hang on.
Educating of children, and also for the mutual support of the husband and wife.
Hold on.
And the educate toward the begetting of children and the educating of children, and also for the mutual support of the husband and wife.
So two different things, two contrary
things. That was
it. Yes. So marriage toward procreation and toward mutual help, those can overlap, but they don't always, all right? And they don't, you can't have a right to two things which can contradict, because, if everyone has a right to a community car 24/7, and everyone takes turns, it's fine. But sometimes people say, I got a right to use this car now. And the other person says, no, I got a right to use this car now. Who has the right? It's instant conflict. You have got to have a hierarchy. One person is in charge and makes the decision or whatever. That's like a bad analogy, but you cannot have two natural orientations to marriage because it's one essence, one orientation, one purpose to the conjugal act that's natural, that's essential. One purpose, not two. And that's the whole problem right there. But Michael Knowles would have a real issue on his hands if he admitted that, because NFP goes out the window and everyone would hate Michael. And so would his Latin Mass priest, who wouldn't hate him, but very few of the Latin Mass priests get it. Very few. In fact, I've only talked to one, maybe two.
The reason for that is not oppression, and it's not patriarchy, and it's not a heteronormativity, and it's that is the only definition that marriage can have that would permit marriage to exist as a different kind of relationship, as a distinct kind of institution, separate from boyfriend and girlfriend.
He's right.
Separate
you got to have. It's got to be for procreation, or there's no reason to have it. But like I said, if you're undermining the whole thing, if you say it's for good of the spouses too, it's not essentially good for good of the spouses. It's not primarily for good of the spouses. It's not naturally for good of the spouses, although that's not an unnatural purpose, but it's not what nature needs essentially.
Just ordinary lovers, separate from roommates. It's the only thing that gives marriage a definition. And there are all sorts of downstream effects of that, especially as pertains to children. But this is really good stuff. And I mention it not just to call attention to a law in Tennessee, but to point out, I was so right, man. I can say I told you so, but I was so right.
I think that's
I
it.
have said
Let me push pause and see if there's anything else.
For saying marriage is not a lost issue for the right. Marriage is not a lost issue. So many people, so many conservative Republicans, so-called, told me, Michael, give up on the marriage thing. Oh, it's just over, man. Maybe it's better that it's over. It's no.
In a way, they're sort of right. It's a lost issue. You have, because you've got to define the contract, and that takes religion, and that takes the Catholic Church, because they can back up the contract. Because you don't do the contract, you get denied the sacraments. The only way to kind of, quote, save marriage in the secular realm, I think, is just eliminate no-fault divorce courts. Just get rid of all that. And you have to go back to normal courtroom, because it is a contract with rights. And that means it's not a covenant, okay? You have to identify the rights. The states are going to have to say, because someone's going to say, you know what? You violated my marriage contract. Oh, really? What are the rights to that contract? We don't know. That's the problem. That's why you can't ever take this to the state, because the state is on fumes and can't define it anymore. As I said in the video yesterday about that deal in France, someone said, I need the divorce because the spouse, my wife, won't honor the conjugal debt, the marital debt. And then the new European Convention of Human Rights says, no, that's no longer a right in marriage. So it's gone. The state won't or can't define marriage, and your bishop can barely do it. In fact, he can't do it, because if he has to endorse NFP, he has to have unlimited rights, which means none. So the only salvation for marriage at this particular moment, I think, everyone's got to take it into their own hands. These spouses, these people considering marriage, have to find out what the Catholic Church really teaches about the contract and the limited, identified, defined rights and duties. Not unlimited, undefined, but limited. How many? Enumerate them. The right over the body for acts, suitable for generation of children. That's it. There is no more as far as the object is concerned. And then, what are the terms of separation, and what happens if you don't do it? Okay. Other than that, the state can't help you, and the church can't help you today, because the people running it they can't define marriage either. Okay, hang on. Let's see what else he's got to say.
Give up on it. I said, I can't give up on it because it gets reality. I can't lie. That's why I can't give up on it, okay? Because I can't say with a straight face that we can redefine marriage in any serious way. We just can't. It's just not a thing we can do. No offense to anybody, no hatred to anybody.
No one can redefine marriage. That's correct. But the problem is, I'm trying to beat a live horse here. The problem is, because it's got a lot of life in it, when you say marriage is oriented toward more than one thing, you've redefined it. And if that one thing it's oriented toward, that extra thing, has no legal definition, is undefinable legally, marriage is cooked. It doesn't exist. If you own a car and you can't define that car legally, I guess I'm taking it, because who are you to judge? I didn't take your car. It's my car. What?
People can live their lives. No one's saying they can't live, but it's like you're telling me that we conservatives believe in enduring human nature. We believe in eternal truths, transcendental moral order, that reality reasserts itself in the end. But you're telling me that the fundamental political institution is irretrievably destroyed because some random lawyer on the Supreme Court wrote romantic poetry during a decision?
No, but when you roll a rock downhill, a boulder downhill, it ain't getting back up without effort. And unless you have someone to point the way back uphill, and the only way that is through the Catholic Church where truth is, you can't do it. So marriage is now a union partnership, and there's if you ask anybody what are the rights and duties of marriage, no one will be able to answer your question. So I always tell people, this is annulment proof, by the way, John Farrell. This is the only place on YouTube where marriage gets defined. So my question to any of you listening is, go ahead and define marriage. I'll listen. And you can't do it because you have to go, because it's so ingrained, indoctrinated. I can't think of the word right now, but that's another thing I envy about Michael Knowles. He is so smart, and he has so many words, and he doesn't trip over any of them. He's like, boom, boom, boom. The guy's like, I don't even know where he got the time to learn all that stuff. I spent 10 years being a punk rock wannabe rock star. Maybe that was the problem. Anyway, we did open for Nirvana. That was sort of cool. So where was I? Yes, you if you're going to actually have secular civil society, quote, do marriage, it's got, the only way, I think, is harness that Obergefell decision and say it's a constitutional right, and I define marriage this way, so we're going to define marriage this way, and then you can show up with your own little contract, otherwise, there's the state can't. It's like the state picking the religion for you. The marriage is inherently religious, and there's not 19 different religions. There's only one that's true.
In his majority ruling? Are you kidding me? I think that institution is a little more enduring. I think reality is a little more enduring than all that. This is what's happening. You're going to see this in more and more states. You're going to see this in more and more states because it reflects the truth and reality, and people desire that. And even if we're taking the flights of fancy for long periods of time, ultimately, reality is going to kick back in. Hey.
All right, so that's it. Yeah, all right. Anyway, as I said, my appeal, if you know any way to slip the memo to MK Ultra there, I definitely want to talk to him about the definition of marriage, because I know he's smart, and I know he's not, controlling words, controlling minds, his book, and he's been controlled on this. He's just bitten off this whole thing about marriage is for the good of the spouses, and it's oriented that way. If all he's got to do is roll back before there was any NFP in the Catholic Church, anybody talking about it, anyone saying it's okay, and that's the definition you can sink your teeth into. That's the one that's been around from day one. Procreation alone is essential. So there's that word, essential. Okay. So anyway, that's what I want to do, is get a hold of Michael Knowles for me if you can. And I hope I hope we can get somewhere. Anyway, I just wanted to point that stuff out. Talk to me all you want in the comments, and till next time, stay sweet.